Welcome back to the Everyday Mom Challenge. This is part 2 in our series on how to effectively debate each week. So now we are finding ourselves on number 4, planning out and writing arguments. Just make sure that your child does it as they go because they have to cite their textual evidence. They're not just going to get up at that debate and start spewing out all these facts and this and that. They have to say where they got those from. That's huge when you debate because if we don't understand the difference between sources and what is a true source, where are they getting their information, who are they being, supported by. It's key when you're looking at bias. And number 5, when you hold your debate, you can do a traditional debate where you set up the 2 chairs and you have your little podium area. You can make a makeshift podium. That would be really great for homeschool, but you can also just gather around the table. Because if you watch Socratic Seminar videos, which I would really suggest that you go out and find on YouTube, there's plenty of really good ones out there, and even videos on how to utilize the article of the week. Dave Stewart has some videos on that, and Kelly Gallagher, of course. But you can go and just sit around your table and just have a meaningful discussion. So how are ways that we can take it forward? Because anytime we do an activity, do we just do it for the sake of doing it, giving them a grade or giving them an evaluation if you're in homeschool and you're just closing it out? No, we really need to be reflective on when we do set up this, what is the next step? Number 1, it's a way for them to talk about social issues that might be pressing or just weighing heavily on them. There could be community issues that, let's say they're holding a school board meeting and they're going to talk about taking the arts out of the school, or there's a great way for your kids to then, take some of that, the tools that they learn with debating and be able to let their voice be heard. They could also write letters from the debates. They could take some of the best arguments or the most well thought out presented arguments. They could make letters. They could do YouTube videos. They could create public service announcements from them. Also encourage your students to look out for debate teams. And even if they don't have a debate team on campus, they can create a Socratic Seminar or Philosophers Club. Anybody can create clubs on campuses. So encourage them to look into that, where they could actually learn how to practice, safe and respectful dialogue with other people. As homeschool families, there are great connections in our communities for debate teams. I know that locally we have a debate team. Even though my son wasn't interested in it, there are many homeschool groups that have debate teams already out there or can hook you up with those resources. Or maybe your family, after trying this out and working through it and you see the benefits, you might want to include other homeschool families in it as well. So I want to talk with you about resources. I really encourage you now to investigate Google Drive folders and how to use them for homeschool. It's amazing. I'm going to show you quickly now. This is my King's Academy Socratic Seminar folder. It has our stems in it that we use. I use these stems not for my older child because he's well versed on how to do it, but my baby, my little, he's now in 6th grade. I pulled this handout offline and I dropped it down into my folder, and now these are ways for him to start his questions off. The more they practice this, the more it becomes a part of their vocabulary. I've also printed out guiding questions that each one of them will go through, and I scaffold those levels. One question that I would ask my 11th grader is just posed a little different than what I would ask my 6th grader. You can pre-plan those guided questions if you would like to do that. And then there's, of course, rubrics that you can find out there that you can use when you're evaluating informational text Socratic seminars. Just download those. There's so many assignment sheets out there. Kelly Gallagher offers those off of his website. Dave Stewart has some on his website of how he's modified those scaffolding sheets. So I would just encourage you just to go out there now and start investigating the tools that are there. And just keep in mind that show 2 sides of every argument. So you do need to show different news sources, especially popular ones that are being used and talked about in today's world. Common Lit is just amazing. So I would encourage you all to look into Common Lit. Many people do still use News ELA. Um, just go out there and just search for Socratic Seminar and debates. PowerPoints are already built. So if you want to type in how to present to your students, there's Socratic Seminar. I actually created a PowerPoint for my own class, but I mean, you can go online and you can look at theirs. You can share their PowerPoints. Different colleges have debates, presentations already done. I would suggest you use those because you're preparing them for collegiate debate and real world debate. So there are resources already there. So tap into those. And there are many ways to modify. Instructional tools that are out there, like the how-to videos like these. There's actually schools that have created how to hold Socratic seminar videos for large classrooms. Because oftentimes I would hear teachers say, well, I have too many students. No, you don't. There's ways to do it. There's the wagon wheels. There's so many. The fishbowl technique. I created something that is copyrighted. It's mine. It's called Wingman. It's almost like a tag team where, and like in wrestling, where the kids can tag in and out between the inner and outer circle. You can also go out there and look at podcasts today. The debate models are superb. And I know that we can't necessarily show some of them based on content, and that's fine, but you can see just how political discourse in today's world is evolving to this just wonderful way to sit down at a table. And even though we might have different views on something, we can still share our views. We can back them up with sources and evidence and express ourselves in just positive ways. The way that we speak today, we have to be mindful of that. And as educators, we don't have to do like severe topics. We don't. We can do this through, topics on current trend topics that are being put out there in opinion papers. Even in your own school newspapers, topics will come up that are opinion based, and then you can use that as a catapult to go into further debate in your classroom. But I would really ask you to scaffold and have scaffolding sheets ready, because not everyone is well versed on how to do this in life. We have to teach the kids how to do this, and don't just automatically assume because you have an honors class you do not need to scaffold. Yes, you do. You need to provide your students with scaffolds early on when you're doing the training sessions. In fact, I use the Book of Ruth as a training session on how to work through a Socratic seminar with guided questions. We did that before we moved to a political topic. We did something that was biblical in our discussions. And then we moved the next week, and keep variety going. Modify what you're using as topics. Don't just stick in one realm, because we want our students to be well versed in multiple topics and to be able to research in multiple topics. It's quite different to speak in a historical context, like right now, if you want to cover Marxism and socialism, that's a lot different than looking at climate change and pollution. Because we speak like scientists, we speak like historians. So we have to learn how to navigate within those different contexts. So I would encourage you to modify your context and how you present the materials to students, and then what you're giving them as far as reference points. Make sure that you're being mindful of the way that students, carry out their conversations. In order for you to really be able to do this effectively, you also have to be able to evaluate. So finding these evaluative tools out there is, like, to me, necessary, because you want them to be able to be reflective, but you also want to be able to stop them if they are off topic, if they are